Thieves fans? Today we got another episode of the Thieves Talk podcast. This week we are talking about the Thieves match against the Miami Heretics that they had this last weekend, and the Thieves are looking good to start Major 3. They are now 2-0 to start off the split, and this is the best start they've had all season by far. So this is a huge upside for the Thieves. They have been looking a little better. Obviously, the Thieves ended up winning this series, but they still let Miami kind of hang around more than they should have. It very easily could have been another situation where the Thieves take this 3-0, but instead they end up going 3-2. It's hard to say that the Thieves are like icing up because they should be closing it out earlier than they really are, or earlier, sorry. They are still kind of icing up at the very end because they started off pretty slow to start that map 5, and we're still able to close it out. So I really think that the Thieves are showing a lot of improvement. There were some mistakes that were made on their part that I think, kind of led them to this longer series. There were also mistakes on the Heretics part that I think the Thieves did a really good job of taking advantage of, which is something we have not seen from the Thieves in the past. So all of this stuff is kind of leading, I think, in the right direction. Obviously, like I said, the Thieves started off 2-0, which is the best we've done all year. So we don't have a crazy split. I think this is something that the Thieves can definitely build off of. And as I said last week, the Thieves are able to win series and still learn from it, from the mistakes that they make in the series, which I think is a lot better than what they were doing before, where it was they were losing the series and having to try and learn from that. Now they at least have a little bit of momentum because they've won the series. They have a little bit of an uplifted spirit because even if they don't play the best, they're still winning. So, the stats say that they're the second best team in the league right now in this major. So, I mean, that's got to be a good momentum boost for the team. And once they kind of get these little mistakes down, I think that's going to make the team be a lot better as a whole. But let's jump into the matchup against the Miami Heretics. So, as we mentioned, Thieves were able to take this series 3-2. And, from the overview, as I have in the title, I mean, Ghosty was an absolute unit. He had a great series, as you can see here, voted the match MVP. I mean, dude was just like, it was 420. He had to show out that day. But he had a great series. The biggest thing that I think I noticed from the Thieves overall when it comes to, like, if we're looking at KDs, is the Rio they kind of got spanked. It looks a little better than what it really was. We'll get into that a little bit as well. And then on the high rise, the Thieves had one round where they just couldn't leave their spawn. Now that's high rise, kind of is what it is. So, some of these numbers may be a little exaggerated based off of just like these two maps alone. Because going into this Vista hardpoint, Crimp was the statistically worst player at -4, which is really not that bad. So for the most part, the entire team was pretty even besides Ghosty, who was a +17. Like I said, dude's an absolute unit. So I think, like, when we look at the overview here, a lot of these numbers are going to be a little inflated based off of probably these two maps right here. But anyway, into this Vista hardpoint, I want to start off by saying I think despite how we finished the last Vista hardpoint we played, the Thieves look really good on Vista hardpoint. And I think what they were able to take away from last time is, again, these little mental mistakes that I felt they were kind of making before as well. We mentioned it last weekend that there was a situation where Nasty probably could have played his life a little better. And I think the Thieves still are having some issues with that. I've noticed it on some of their respawns. But they're at a point where their teamwork is getting a little better to where if they kind of make some of those mistakes, they're able to fix them in the moment. Now, obviously, when you're playing a team like FaZe, Optic, Ultra, even New York, like they are going to punish stuff like that. So now is the time for them to learn from these mistakes before they have to face a team like Optic at the very end of the split. Um, so this is their learning time right now. They need to kind of pinpoint all that stuff that they're doing and say, okay, we got to really crack down on this stuff. We got to stop, you know, whether it's overchalling, just running too much, not having irons up, whatever it might be. They got to get that stuff figured out because I think their raw talent, their raw skill, if they can get that teamwork to be dialed, they're going to be a really good team because their teamwork wasn't necessarily insane in this series. Like they they really were kind of able to just outslay the the Heretics. There were plenty of situations where Heretics were playing extremely well as a team, as a unit, and the Thieves were still able to kind of break through and get some wins. So I think the Thieves are, as I said before, headed in the right direction. I think if they start getting to where these guys' teamwork is more consistent, they're gonna be a really really good team, and they're gonna be a scary team. I think they could easily be the fifth team, if not higher. That's my opinion. But looking at this Vista hard point here, 250 to 164 started out as kind of a bang out. I mean, that's kind of how Vista is so far. Very fast paced. I think it plays well to the Thieves like advantage because they tend to play fast. So I think Vista is a really good map for them. Um, and obviously it's a hell of a lot more fun to watch than Invasion. Um, and yeah, like I said, Ghosty 2.0 KD, absolutely insane clinical work out of him. Nasty with a 1.24, doing great things again. I mean, as I said before, even if his stats aren't showing something like this, he always has really good damage. So Nasty's always doing the right stuff. And then Metal's the only one to even go even. Everybody else in the negative for the Miami Heretics. They're looking a hell of a lot better. And I think they deserve some of that credit. Because even here, as we get into the 6-star, the the Thieves should have won the 6-star. They should have won it. I mean, they were up 5-2 in this search, and they gave up all of those rounds to let the Heretics come back and win 6-5. Um, really, really, really not ideal. That's where, as I said earlier, I think saying that the Thieves are icing up is kind of hard to say because to me, if they're really truly icing up, this map should be closed out. They should win this map 100%. At the very least, they should have won it 6-3, maybe 6-4 if we're being generous. Um, there's no reason the Thieves give up that many rounds in a row when they're up that much. Like it shouldn't happen. So this was the one map where Ghosty, didn't have the best showing. A point 0.4 KD, Joe Deceives breaking even, Kremp with a 1.3 KD, and Nasty with a 0.56. So both our ARs kind of not having the best. I will say though, there was a moment on I want to say it was the 10th round where Ghosty just got like absolutely obliterated by, I want to say, Vickle. He was like sitting a close corner with a rival, and somehow Vickle swings him uh with the MCW and just melts him, like blows him away. You can even look in Ghosty's player cam. He's like completely shocked that happened. Um, so there could be some timings that come into play, but again, when you're up that many rounds, to me, there's no reason that the Thief should lose that. Everybody positive besides Vickle for the Heretics. They had a really good map. They were watching the flank really well, kind of just reading a lot of stuff that the Thieves were doing. So gotta give them credit where credit is due. And I forget who it was. Somebody earned a cruise missile that I think kind of made it tough for Joe Deceives in the last round to possibly have a chance at clutching a 2v1. But yeah, it is what it is. Shouldn't lose this one, but we move on to the high rise map 3 here. 3-1 win out of the Thieves. Their high rise control looks pretty solid. Obviously it kind of depends on who they face. If they face higher level teams, it doesn't look great. But when they face the lower level teams, they tend to do a pretty good job of closing out the map. As I said earlier, they did get spawn trapped in the one round that the Heretics won. Um, but they also had some small moments where like the time was running low and they were able to kind of make some plays to, whether it be just absolutely wipe the Heretics from lives, or to get onto the point and allow themselves to add extra ticks, or to get extra ticks and add extra time to kind of push this, or to push the round farther. Um, Ghosty with a 1.1 KD, Joe Deceives -4, Crimp 1.08, Nasty 1.11 with 6. Almost, if we're rounding up, he almost has 7k damage. I mean, what did I say? This guy right here, he does all the dirty work. You got to give him his credit. You got to give him his props. Great map out of the Thieves. We love to see that. We did get kind of blessed a couple times with some of the really big gas tanks. They kind of played in our favor. There was only one situation, I think, where it kind of hurt us, where there was a team kill on somebody. I don't remember who it was, but the tank blew up and it killed somebody on our team. But there were several situations where the tank blew up and it killed multiple people on the Heretics, kind of letting the Thieves skate by. So we did get a little lucky, but I mean, that's going to happen sometimes. It is what it is. I feel they hype up and they panic kind of. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's panic. I think they just get too antsy. I think they it's hard for them to kind of just like sit still and iron up the whole time. And to be fair, they're all young, cracked players. Like it's gonna take them some time to kind of like realize, hey, we need to settle down a little bit, because they have the gun skill to be really really good, like all of them do. Um, but I think sometimes they probably just overheat and they get a little too overzealous and decide to take gunfights when they don't need to, or they're too aggressive with it. And I think they are getting better at it. I feel like I've noticed that. Um, but obviously, Rome wasn't built in a day. They're not going to be perfect. After each map, it's not like they have one series where they say, "Oh yeah, we were over challenging or we were over aggressive," and then the next series it just doesn't happen. It's still going to happen, but as long as we start seeing these little improvements that I think we have been seeing, I think they're headed in the right direction. So I'm really not too worried about it. I think if it keeps happening, that's when it'll kind of be a problem. And then if it gets to a point where it's causing the Thieves to lose series, that's when it's really going to be a big issue, and they're going to have to kind of look into that deeper. But I don't really see it going that direction. I think Ghosty has done a really good job of not doing that his career so far. And then Joe Deceives obviously had a stint back in Challengers where he said that dropping down gave him a lot more confidence. So who knows how that'll kind of translate when it comes to something like that. If it makes him feel like he should be more aggressive, or if it told him, hey, maybe I can sit back a little bit because it helps me play better. You know, and then Nasty's been in the league for a little bit. He's obviously been up and down, still fairly young, but again, as we've said, he's always doing damage, so it's not like he's necessarily doing things wrong. Um, there's still some plays here and there that could be tweaked, but um, Kremp Kremp sometimes plays a little too fast, or sometimes he'll overchow and things like that. But I mean, he's not technically a rookie, I guess, because he played a little bit last year. But for the most part, he's pretty much a rookie still. So I don't give them too much flack for that, as long as, like I said, we keep seeing that improvement. The map 4, Rio Hardpoint. Uh, the Thieves really didn't play great on this map, to be straight up. The 149 250 mark is a lot closer than what it probably should have been. Heretics were up like I want to say like 240 to 80 something at one point, and then the Thieves kind of started to get a little bit of a roll going, but it was just, it was too late. They really were just getting smacked around. As you can see, Lucky and Metals both plus 11, 1.61 KD. Um, I mean, the teamwork that the Heretics had just really proved where the Thieves are kind of lacking in that regard. Um, Fortunately, it was pretty much only this map that I feel like they really got smacked around. Like the rest were all pretty competitive. Yes, the Thieves had some breaks here and there, but this map was the one where you could tell that the Thieves really need to work on some of that teamwork a little bit and maybe be, um, just more in sync. But not the best map here. Ghosty still only -3. Joe Deceives -15, which is really, really rough. And Nasty -10, not ideal. Kremp the only one to go positive from the Thieves side of things. And then as we can see, everybody positive on the Heretics. Not much to it. They got smacked around a little bit. But we go into the map 5, Invasion, Search and Destroy. And this is where the Thieves, as I said before, I don't necessarily like to say iced up, but they did. They iced up. They were down 3-0 to start the map and were able to bounce back to a 3-3 standpoint where Real started off insanely hot. Within 2 rounds, he had a cruise missile, and it was the fifth round that he just like completely burned it. This was one of those situations where the Thieves took a huge advantage of the mistakes that the Heretics made. It was a what? It was either a 2v1 or a 3v1, and Real calls in his streak to try and kill the diffuser to try and make a play, but the bomb was pretty much already diffused. So he just completely burns his streak. After that, Thieves are able to get their own streak from Kremp, who, as you can see, a 2.2 KD, absolutely insane out of him. He gets his streak. He uses it really well, allows us to get another round win. We go up 4-3. They come back. They get a round from Thieves, and then from there we have the insane 1v3 from Dan Ghosty. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. We can just play this clip real quick.
Does though. Kremp nearly gets them both. Metals there for it. Ghosty now sliding in. Takes advantage of the trades. Last man left alive. Makes it a 1v1. Damn Daniel. Back at it again. With round for the Thieves.
I mean, Ghosty's in such a like weird spot here. He slides in behind the tank, comes around, gets the free pick on Metals. He was already weak from the engagement with Kremp, and then fakes the player cam or the death cam, comes through, gets a easy kill right there. I mean, he just melts him, and then turns around and just like reads the last guy here, and just doesn't miss a bullet. Great, huge play from Dan Ghosty there to put us up in the map at 5-4, and then they're able to close out the final round to win 6-4 and to close out the entire series 3-2. One of the other things that I wanted to show as well, going back to the fact that the Thieves are now 2-0 on this split, and that I think the Thieves are starting to look better and better. Brian Stats here posted that before the Thieves signed Nasty and Kremp, which Joe Deceives mentioned here, before signing Nasty and Joe Deceives, or Kremp, sorry, they were 2-7. After signing Nasty and Kremp, they are 6-5, and they're starting off 2-0 for the first time in 4 stages. 4 stages. So Nasty and Kremp have been a huge factor on this team to help kind of flip things over. Now, obviously, you still have to be able to win some series on LAN. they haven't been able to do that yet. And the upside with this is based on our schedule, based on who the Thieves play, which we can take a look at here. This Friday, they have the Ravens, and then Saturday, they have the Rocker. Now, Ravens look a little better. They look a little better. Rocker still is not great. Um, and then later, we'll have Boston and Seattle on the same weekend. Or no, sorry, that's a different weekend. Um, so we'll have Boston the one weekend, and then Seattle the next weekend, and close it out with Optic that same weekend as the Seattle match. And realistically, I think the Thieves should be able to win out except for Optic. I think Optic is going to be the biggest test. Based on how they're playing, if they get that teamwork down just a little bit better, to me, there's no reason they should lose to Surge. Surge still does not look very good. They look a little better with 04, but they still don't look great. Breach look discombobulated. I think the Thieves should be able to beat Breach. And Rocker, again, they're still just like not really there yet. Like Breach obviously beat up on Rocker the other day, but it was, as Octane said, kind of like a battle of the shitters. Like neither team is necessarily great. Um, I think I think Boston might be a little tougher because I feel like their teamwork might be a little better, but at the same time, like some of Pentagram's plays are not great. Or wait, didn't I'm so faded. I think Boston actually fucking won, didn't they? Or no, they lost. Sorry. Yeah, they lost because I'm so faded. Yeah, because Pentagram. Yeah. Okay. I'm all backwards. Yeah, I was thinking of the Vista because Beans went absolutely insane to end the Vista, but then they absolutely choked in the 6 star. So that's where I was mixed up. Either way, both teams are pretty booty cheeks if we're being completely honest here. So I think the Thieves should be able to beat both of those teams, and I think their toughest matchups, in my opinion, are going to be the Ravens and Optic Texas. I still think we should beat the Ravens, but this one will be a fun matchup, especially if the Thieves win out the rest of the way up until Optic. If the Thieves win out the rest of the way up until Optic, I think this match is going to be a lot better than what people are going to give it credit for. Obviously, we have to get there first. Who knows if they'll actually get to that point? They might lose here and there to some of the teams, but I'm really hoping they don't. Obviously, there's a good amount of time for each team to still kind of improve and get used to their teamwork and stuff like that, because obviously Rocker made a change, Boston made a change, and Seattle made a change. So they could just be getting used to their unit as well. Thieves just have a little bit more longevity when it comes to their roster change, even though it still hasn't been that much or it hasn't been that long. But yeah, to quit rambling, I think the Thieves should be able to close it out the rest of the way up until Optic, and then I think Optic is going to be the biggest challenge, and that's the last match. That's the last match overall. I think the fact that the Thieves are already starting off 2-0 should be a good sign that the Thieves have a good chance of making winner's bracket. I don't have it up on Twitter. That was one thing I had forgot, but I think that the Thieves winning their first 2 matches puts them at like an 80-something% chance that they're going to make winner's bracket. Obviously, I hope that I'm correct on that, because I would love to see the Thieves get another winner's bracket. I think now they're more at the point where I think they're leading towards a top 5 team. And I think because of that, unless they're facing off against a Optic, a FaZe, I think they're really going to struggle against those 2 types of teams. But if they play against Um, New York, I think they might have a chance against New York because New York hasn't looked as good as they did. And then Ultra, I think, is the same deal. Ultra has not looked as good. Envoy has been having a rough stretch. So, I think there's some possibility going into the major. Obviously, we'll have to see where everybody lands in qualifying. Then we'll kind of get the bracket, see who the Thieves are going to face, and kind of be able to predict from there. But we have a little ways to go. Still have what, one, two, three, four, 5 matches. We still have 5 matches over the next, I want to say 3 weekends, 3 or 4 weekends. So we still have a little bit of ways to go. Don't want to, get too ahead of everything. But um, yeah, I'm really excited for the Thieves. I think they are, as I said, playing a lot better than what they have been. Um, as we said, still some mistakes, but I think they're making the changes to improve on that. And once that teamwork starts clicking, they're going to be a really really good team. They're going to be tough to beat. They're not going to be just like a pushover team that I feel like they were looked at as to start the season. So I'm really really excited about that. Yes sir, Dusty, we got to run it up, baby. Run it up, LAT. I think that's about it. Should be a little bit of a longer episode next weekend just because we'll be able to cover the Ravens and the Rocker match instead of just one match. But yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, I would appreciate if you guys like and subscribe to the video. Obviously, I want to do this more often. It's a little hard with work sometimes, but I try to make sure I get the podcast recorded and uploaded pretty early so that way by the time this next weekend comes around or the next weekend of matches rolls around, you guys have already been able to watch this and interact with it, engage with it however you want. Because for some reason I don't like the the chronological timeline of like if I were to post this after these new matches and stuff like that. It bugs me personally. Maybe that's my OCD or whatever. But yeah, so I try to get these uploaded before the matches come around. So I'm gonna try and have this one uploaded tomorrow, so that way you guys can watch it before the Friday match because that is going to be the first match of the weekend for the Thieves. And then we should be able to cover this hopefully uh, over the weekend. If I'm working, then I'll just do Monday or the start of the week like I did this week. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I don't really have a set schedule, and I apologize for that. Hopefully soon I can get to that point, but for now, this is kind of what we're working with. Um, but yeah, I appreciate everybody who tuned in. As I said, please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and be sure to be on the lookout for the next episodes. And if you have not watched the interview that I did with Dan Ghosty, please go check that out. I think it's a great video. I had a lot of fun doing it. And it was cool to just get to pick Dan's brain a little bit. And if you're interested about him and the way he thinks about Call of Duty and stuff like that, I think it's a great watch. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. I will see you guys next week. See ya.